A bump in the night, mysterious frights, smells that disturb, visuals impaired. Welcome to another episode of Cryptid Chronicles. I'm your host, Sadhu Da, as we begin to dive and explore into horrors unseen but foretold. Join me if you dare. An introduction to various cryptids. Minghua. Evidence is actually pretty strong in giving support to the existence of this cryptid. The scientific journal Discovery featured an interview in 1938 with William Hitchens. He was a British administrator who spent time working in Tanzania. He reported witnessing several natives being attacked by a Minghua. William was so convinced of what he saw that he collected samples of fur and tracks to be sent out for testing. The fur samples and tracks were different from those of a lion and could not be conclusively proven as a known species. Minghua means the strange one, and rightly so due to how it differs from most felines. The Nunda, another name from Minghua, is gigantic, very aggressive, and dark gray or black. This nocturnal feline hails from Tanzania. It is the size of a horse. English contact with this cryptid started in the early 1900s. The Minghua is a man-eater. It has grown accustomed to consuming the flesh of humans. I am firmly in line with the theory of it being a species of lion that is just not known yet. Makara. This cryptid is an aquatic-based creature in Hindu culture, though it is referenced all over Asia. It is commonly depicted as half-terrestrial animal in the front. This varies from the appearance of a deer, crocodile, or elephant. The hindquarters are usually that of a fish or a seal. Makara are considered guardians of gateways and holy dwellings. They are the most commonly reoccurring creatures depicted within Hindu and Buddhist temple iconography. These creatures are closely related to gargoyles and can be considered as the aquatic equivalent of one. The trunco sightings on South Africa's Indian coast are believed to be a Makara. These sightings and other supporting documentations give a broader view of the Makara. Ancient sketches of this cryptid tend to resemble some modern illustrations of a prehistoric mammal known as the Amblyocyatus. South Asian river dolphins are sometimes mistaken as Makara sightings. This is due to it sharing several visible similarities and being different than most depictions of mainstream iconography for dolphins not of the Asian variety. Bergman's bear. This species of bear is believed to be extinct, but modern accounts and sightings lend credence to this being false. These bears are a subspecies of the brown bear, and they are most commonly found in the Kamchatka Peninsula, named after the famous Swedish zoologist Sten Berkman. He had determined in 1920 that the bear was of a separate subspecies from the brown bear. He examined a hide which was very different from other known bears. It has been nicknamed the God Bear due to its large size. It is much bigger in comparison to a grizzly. Ibugogo. These beings are similar to mermaids and the Sasquatch. The reason being that they are an offshoot in evolution from which human species took a different term long ago. This is a theory that I've held for some time. It goes to explain deep similarities and traits that we share with many of these humanoid-type cryptids. The Ibu-gogo are wild and hairy miniature humanoid beings. They appear in the mythology of Flores, Indonesia. Think of them as resembling a Sasquatch combined with a dwarf. The face is the only hairless part of their bodies, and they have the ability to mimic things that humans say, but they do have their own spoken language. Ibu-gogo were hunted to extinction in the 18th century, but a few still live today. They are very rare to encounter, and what had happened to them is nothing short of genocide. They were tricked into accepting gifts of palm fiber. Locals in Flores told them they would teach them to make clothes. When the Ibu-gogo took the palm fiber into their main cave network, villagers launched Molotov cocktails into the caves and burned them alive. Ibu-gogo were more of a nuisance because they stole food, but when they kidnapped children and ate them in soups, this was considered the last straw for residents of Flores. Buru. We are responsible for the extinction of these incredible creatures. They died out when the forefathers of the Apatani migrated to Zero Valley in the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh. The valley was primarily a wet marshland and was heavily populated by Burros. The Apatani people would have confrontations with these creatures on a regular basis, but they refused to resettle their city, so they decided by draining the marsh of all its water that this would kill off the majority of the Buru population. They were right, and if any were to have survived, they went underground into the springs. So what does a Buru look like, you may ask? They're a cross between the Komodo dragon and a crocodile. The descriptions are pretty consistent: a forked tongue with the body of a monitor lizard and elongated necks with large scales all over. They are said to have been carnivorous and spending most of their time in the water. Suchanoko. These little creatures are as small as they are odd. They only measure in at about 2 feet long. They are quite fat though. They are half as wide as they are in length. Picture a short and stubby looking snake, and you've captured the image of a shukanoko. One of the more interesting descriptions of these beings is the ability to leap over 5 feet in the air and somehow are able to perform a second jump while airborne. They are capable of speaking in human languages and have a propensity for lying and being tricksters. One of the ways that they are known for traveling is by swallowing their tail and rolling along like a wheel. These cryptids are reported all over Japan. The word sukanoko translates to hammer spawn, but in northern Japan they are called bachihibi. They are highly venomous and have also been sighted in the US, Canada, and Australia. The earliest records of Sukanoko show up in the Kojiki, which is the oldest surviving book in Japanese culture. Accounts of these cryptids date all the way back to the 7th century. Jinminju. The first descriptions of the Jinminju originate from China and were later passed on to Japan. In Japanese culture, it is considered to be a yokai. Because of how bizarre they are, accounts of Jinminju are noted within Persian and Indian culture as well. The Jinminju are trees bearing human-faced fruit. The fruits are said to laugh and giggle. Japanese farmers were reported to have orchards with these trees, and those who lived close could hear giggles emanating across the countryside. They are no longer found in Japan. The human-faced fruit was said to be delicious, not to eat. They ripen in the fall and have a sweet, sour taste. Some rural villages in China are rumored to still have a few trees. Bunyip. This cryptid hails from Australian Aboriginal mythology. It's likely an aquatic shapeshifter due to the varying descriptions of it. They inhabit rivers, waterways, ponds, swamplands. There's 9 major cultural variations of the bunyip across Australia. The most common form is a giant starfish. Many accounts go on to describe the bunyip with a dog-like face or crocodile-like head. It is often depicted as having dark fur and a horse-like tail. Some people report it having flippers and giant tusks or horns. As wide as the descriptions pan, they all agree on it being a bunyip. It is very violent and predatory being that many Aboriginal people either witnessed attacks of or claim to know of one that occurred. It is highly possible that the bunyip is an extinct marsupial like the Diprotodon, Sagomaturus, Nototherium, or Palarochestus. Aspatodachelum. You are at a sea and drop your anchor. There's a violent jerking moments later, and your ship is torn to pieces as it descends into the wet abyss. This is a common story attributed to the Aspatdacholen, whose appearance is that of a massive whale or sea turtle. Both are probably existent, but they get lumped into the singular category of Aspatdacholen. Both are probably existent, but they get lumped into the singular category of Aspatdacholen. Another story that describes these cryptids are islands with fauna and sand, teeming with life, and then suddenly sinking to the bottom of the ocean. What was supposedly an island was just the raised shell of a massive turtle. They are capable of emitting sweet smells to lure in hordes of fish and can also remain stationary for years. With over 80% of our oceans being undiscovered, as strange as these beings sound, it is not really that far-fetched to believe that they could exist. Jinkinnamen. You're walking down an alley in a Japanese city, and you turn the street corner. Suddenly, you're face to face with a dog that has human features. That's right, a human-dog hybrid. They have the facial features of a human, but the body of a dog. Oh, and by the way, they can cry like people and speak our language. Some speculate that they are the Japanese chupacabra, which isn't accurate in comparison to the behaviors associated with the chupacabra. Still others think of them as spirits, but they are physical animals. Even more ludicrous is the notion of them being dogs possessed with demons, or the result of secret government testing. The most plausible explanation I've heard of is Jinkinnamen being a Japanese macaque monkey. That would only account for a few of the reported sightings. There's just too many of these for everyone to be wrong in what they saw. They incite deep fear and unease through projected empathic abilities. They also have telepathy and will urge people to run. I believe out of many conclusions that people have come to that they are omens. Bodies have been displayed, both alive and dead, in carnival sideshows. A visiting American zoologist had once seen one. He reported that it appeared genuine and was thoroughly creeped out. Out of all the weird and zany creatures of Japan, the Jinkinnamen fascinates me the most.